Oh, but yeah, there's evidence with the letter, but he can just burn it, right? With like the order of forget everything that's happened here, is that gonna be like literal because they're still being brainwashed? You know? Like, are they? Oh, hello! How did she know that someone was here? Well, clearly it's Anthony, just like I said. Oh, okay, we're just gonna go right into the intro. Oh! Okay, so it is Anthony, right? Okay. Oh, damn! See, he's just like chilling on the premises. I also have a theory about him, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. He doesn't seem too torn up about this. Like, you know, that's why. I think he's not torn up about it because he knows that she's alive. You know what I mean? Exactly. What happened to Anthony? That's what I was thinking. I have a theory about this. But again, I'll save it for later. I think that maybe Christopher didn't kill himself. And that maybe if a human's willpower is stronger than a shadow, they absorb the shadow and can use the shadow's powers, which I think is pretty fucked and maybe kind of fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like Ricky, who has a stronger will than Patrick, could actually absorb Patrick instead. And that's why, like, Anthony's, like, around and he's special and stuff. I don't know. No, he's not worried because she's not dead. Okay. Oh, no. Well, that's kind of callous about it. Oh, I see. It's because he thinks that she's kind of a coward. I don't believe that, though. He seems a little heartless, you know? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I knew that they'd do that. Yeah! So they're alive, right? Exactly! Yeah, they're alive, aren't they? So they don't know. But I think that is what happened. Oh, well, this is nice. I don't know, though, Anthony. He's giving me mixed vibes, you know? See? I don't know. Maybe. But I don't know. There's something off about him. Oh, see, so he helped. No, see, I don't think Christopher's dead. Look at his little hand thing, too. Like, you know, I don't know. Okay. I mean, that sounds good. I don't know, man. This conversation. Oh, well, you're just gonna leave? Where do you go? Where do you sleep? Do you live inside of the walls? Okay, well, wait, what do you mean? We haven't gotten any information from you. I can't believe he appeared and then he was like, okay, bye. What the fuck? I don't know, man. I think something's up with this man. But he seems so nonchalant about everything. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I think they're alive. They're really trying to build up hope that they're alive, so I'll believe that they're alive, you know? But they don't have windows. Is this a flashback for Emilico? Oh, that must have been when she was before. Oh, maybe. Was it a dream, though, or was it a memory? Yeah, exactly. Hey, I thought that you weren't gonna try to help us anymore, Mia. Yeah, what's gonna happen now, by the way? Because Rosemary and Mary Rose, they don't know that they're dead, right? They just think that they were adults, so who's the head of the team and stuff? She's like burnt out. Oh, dear. Well, it's probably because she wants to do something like the research team does, you know? Like something cool or something. I don't know. Oh, no. Oh, no. I feel like she's just like depressed. Oh, no. It's like red pill, blue pill situation. Oh, I think that she's cleaning her own room or something. Oh, okay. Well, you're not doing it right. Well, this is nice. Look at this. See? interesting too, like the metaphor for all this, you know? Oh no! That's not good! Oh damn, they're not gonna just, worn down areas, like it's just, we just gotta clean it up a little, like, it's just in need of repair, like that sort of thing, Well, Kate's probably gonna be a leader because Kate is, did the thing. Well, but Kate found the culprit, so. Oh no! It's only one of them! Oh! Oh no! So what's gonna happen now? What about, but Mirabelle is going to, okay, hold on. Right? Well, that's good. Oh, well, that's nice, I think. Oh, well, that's nice. Oh, that's kind of nice. That's kind of like what Christopher said, Oh, God, Sarah and Mia are not happy, though. Well, this is good. Oh, I love this track. Oh, this is so cute. I feel like this is nice setup for, like, the next season. Like, probably what the next arc is gonna be and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that kind of means you're the team leader. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just thinking. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, she's like traumatized. She's like fucking PTSD. Oh, dear. Oh, no. Oh, she started to do maybe Belle's part as well. Oh, this is kind of nice. Oh, see, that's what I was thinking. Oh, well, that's nice. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, is that, like, they didn't dispose of Belle either. Oh, it's like her sister. Oh no! But Emilico wouldn't do that. Oh no! Damn, Mia's really pushing her. Yeah, see, they've been picking up the slack. Oh, damn! Oh, damn! This is kind of interesting, though. Oh, see? Oh, Jesus! Oh, dear! Oh! 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 See, she's just trying to have, like, empathy for her. Yeah! Oh! Oh, that's interesting! She's the one doll for both of the twins! truth and not leave her in the dark anymore. All right, everyone, let us get into the discussion now. And remember that if you have enjoyed the discussions, the reactions, you should check out the Patreon. You can see all of the full-length timer and subtitle reactions over there for season 1 and season 2. It's also a good way to support the channel in general, especially because this is our final discussion together. I'm kind of sad. Like, I'm kind of depressed about it just because, like, Shadow's House is like the gift that keeps on giving. Like, even when a season is done, there's so much more to, like, discover and explore. And I just think that if given the opportunity, I mean, I hope that we get a season 3. Like, I hope that the show is doing well enough that it is able to continue. But I think that, like, if people just gave it the chance, I feel like that Shadow's House could end up being in, like, you know, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, like, status, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, storytelling and stuff. Like, I truly do believe that if people only give it the chance, that it could go down in, like, anime history as one of, like, the best anime of all time, you know what I mean? Like, in its genre, I guess, obviously, because it doesn't have, like, you know, the giant flashy fight scenes that, like, some other anime do, but in terms of, like, the genre that it is in, I feel like that, like, people could, like, look at this for, like, years and years, and it could, like, withstand, you know, the test of time, I guess, like, in comparison to, like, other things, you know? And so I just really hope that we get the opportunity for season 3. I really hope that more people give the anime a chance, because I think that right now the anime's in a place of, like, underrated, you know what I mean? Like, cult classic, I guess, like, very beloved, but underrated, and cult classic, like, no pun intended, but you know what I mean? And so I just hope that, like, the anime gets more recognition, because I think that, like, as the seasons progress, it's just only going to get more interesting. Like, we already started from such an interesting place, and it never fails to deliver on that, right? Even now, I'm like, oh my god, we're done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of knew that episode 12 was coming, but there was a certain point where I was just like, I totally forgot that, like, seasons were a thing. Like, it just felt like the story could continue to unravel and, like, keep unraveling. Like, it concluded Mary Rose's arc, but at the same time, there's always so much more to explore. It never feels like that it concludes. But yeah, let's actually get into this episode now. So, I loved seeing, like, the reactions to everything, and I think that, like, here's my first theory, and I guess we could have talked about this later, but I'll just go ahead and talk about it now. You guys made a very good point that Barbara is still very heavily brainwashed, and she also doesn't know that the dolls are human, right? And so in her head right now, she must be thinking, like, why would Mary Rose go that far for a tool? Like, just for a living doll? So I feel like that where Kate will succeed, whereas Mary Rose and Christopher failed, is that they kind of, like, babied Barbara, right? Which I understand, because at that point in time, she was a baby, like, you know what I mean? But now, I think where Mary Rose went wrong was keeping it a secret from her, and I feel like that Kate, in the next season, will eventually tell Barbara the truth, and that's how Barbara will get on Kate's side, basically, because Barbara does not know this information, or at least, like, she knows about the fusion, but I don't think that she knows that, like, Barbie is human, right? Or that it may kill her, like, that fusion may mean death, right? And so that's something that people pointed out, is that Barbara may change her mind about things if she knew that Barbie was human at the very least. And so I think that that's interesting, and I think that, like, again, where Christopher and Mary Rose failed, Kate will actually, like, let her in on the secret and actually tell her, and that'll change things, right? Because they kind of coddled Barbara, but I feel like that Barbara has grown up. She's not in the place to be coddled anymore, so I think that Kate will, you know, try to let her in on the truth. And I think that Barbara will have a lot of respect for that, right? I think that Kate may even go as far as to tell her the truth about Christopher, because she says, like, Christopher should have been, you know, the warden of the children's wing. I don't know if Kate heard that, but I'm assuming she did, since they're all just in this hallway, right? So, you know, I'm just going to go with the idea that, like, Kate heard that and she may know. And if she knows that, she may be inclined to be truthful with Barbara, because Barbara has had all these secrets kept from her. But yeah, that's the first thing that I thought of, you know, just seeing these screenshots that I collected first. But yeah, what I love too is, like, it happened on the adult side. Like, that's the first thing that they need to say. Like, they just throw Edward under the bus, like, right away. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's Oliver who says that. Oliver's like, this isn't the Star Bearer's responsibility. Like, he jumps in right away to be like, yeah, this isn't our fault. You know, it's like when you say, like, Jinx or whatever, like, it's, you know, the first person to go, like, Jinx, you owe me a soda. It kind of felt like that. Oliver's just like, okay, but before anything else, right? Before Rose just jumped out the window. This isn't our fault, bitch, right? And so I love Oliver for that. I think it was him. It could have been Benjamin, but I think it was one of the male voices. I may not be sure. But anyway, I wonder, like, this is in order forget everything that happened here is, like, literal or metaphorical, right? Because since they are being brainwashed, like, with the coffee and the soot and stuff, I wonder if you could order someone to literally forget something. I mean, I think I watched an anime that did something like that. It was probably Code Geass, though, that had that sort of element to the Geass, like, if you asked somebody to forget something, they would literally forget. So I don't know if it's just, like, you know, metaphorical or if they actually will forget what happened here. And so this is interesting too. So like the letter of consent is evidence that like Mary Rose crossed over the bridge. So like Edward can't deny it, I guess. I think that that's why he was like, oh, blasted Barbara, right? Because it's evidence that Mary Rose was basically transferred over, if that makes sense, right, to him in his custody. And so since he has the letter of consent, that's evidence that, like, he is responsible because he has the letter. He could get rid of it, but I'm sure there's a copy or something, right? You know what I mean? And so it's, like, kind of a paper trail. Like, Barbara created a paper trail. She probably has a copy. She could be like, yeah, I did give it to Edward, and I gave it to Edward in front of all the other star bearers, right? So they saw it, right? Everybody saw it. Everyone was there. So I think that Edward couldn't like throw them under the bus for this because not only do they have a paper trail, but they have like witnesses. There's a whole thing. So let's talk about Anthony. I think it was kind of weird that like Anthony, I don't know how Kate knew this before. I guess she opened the door, but she seemed to have like, I don't know if she opened the door at this point, but she seemed to have like some sort of psychic, you know, knowledge that like someone was in the room when they shouldn't have been. It seemed to be, maybe it was when she opened the door, right? But it looked almost like before she opened the door, so that, you know, confused me a little bit. Well, Emilico asks if it's Mary Rose, but Kate says no, it can't be. Which makes sense because, like, you don't expect Mary Rose to be climbing back into the children's wing after they spent so much effort to escape, right? And they entertain the fact that Mary Rose and Rosemary may actually be alive, which is really, really good because that was my theory, right? And so it's not confirmed, but I'm leaning towards them both being alive, right? And so obviously we know this is Anthony. I have high hopes for both of you. So see, Anthony's a very interesting character, and I have a theory about him, and I've been thinking about this theory for like the past 2 days now. But yeah, let's go through his dialogue first, because this is important, right? The strength between the adults and the children, and he's basically saying, you are going to get swallowed, so you need my help, right? And he actually says that later, too, like literally. He's like, yeah, you need me. But Kate kind of comes back with, yeah, she recounted the events of Christopher's fate, of everything else. Like, so this happened kind of off screen, I guess. Like, everything that we saw in last episode that we thought was in, I guess, Mary Rose's head, she also, like, maybe explained to them a little bit, right? And so, yeah, what happened to Anthony, right? And so that's the thing that she left out. And so, yeah, I'm getting a vibe from Anthony that is like a red flag sort of vibe. You know what I mean? And so I think that this is interesting that he was kind of her accomplice, right? Is that Mary Rose, because I thought it was just Mary Rose and Rosemary open the door together, basically. You know what I mean? But they had entertained previously that it would have to be a man who opened the door because of how heavy it is. Now, I thought the two girls just worked together to do it, but it seems to be implied that it was Anthony who actually helped them open the door. Now, where is Anthony been? You know, where is Anthony been? Where has Anthony been? I don't even know. Like, he's just living inside of the walls, maybe in the attic, right? Like where Emilico and John went on the balcony. Maybe he's just like living there. I don't know. But I think that like there's some weird things going on with him. And so yeah, let's get into my theory now. This I think is the first red flag for a lot of people, okay? Like the fact that he's like, no. Like look at his face. He has like, you know, smiley, smiley, no, right? And so I think that what's interesting is that there's the implication that Anthony may hold some resentment for Christopher, right? Once Mary Rose received her invitation, she planned to throw herself off the balcony, right? And then he says, I have no interest in those who do not have the will to keep fighting. And that's very interesting because when you think about it, did Christopher not right? Like, you know what I mean? Christopher literally lost the will to fight, in a way, right? I'm not blaming Christopher, because that's, you know, kind of victim blamey, right? But from Anthony's perspective, I think he actually resents Christopher for unaliving himself, right? And so I think that's actually very interesting, is that may have warped Anthony's perspective a little bit. He's like, yeah, I mean, Mary Rose and I knew each other for a long time, but I don't really give a shit because, like, she gave up. I need people that are willing to fight. Like, I can't have people that are gonna give up on me like Christopher did. That may be the underlying of himself. And so I think the reason why he likes Kate and Emilico is because they're willing to fight until the very end, or at least it seems that, right? And see, now they're bringing up the cushion thing that I talked about last episode. And so they don't know how it turned out, right? But I do have hopes that Mary Rose and Rosemary are alive. It doesn't feel like that they died. It doesn't feel like it had the gravitas of like a death scene, if that makes sense. It just felt like an escape scene, you know what I mean? Like when Shirley died and Shirley came back, so maybe this isn't the best example, but when Shirley died, right, she like literally disintegrated, you know what I mean, right? And so like I feel like that there's a certain way that anime tends to show death, right? And it tends to be something that is like focused upon. But when the death is not focused upon, usually it's because the character is gonna come back. Not always, that's not like a hard and fast rule. I'm just saying that that's something I've noticed, obviously, analyzing a lot of anime. You know, the past couple years, that's a very common situation, right? And so I feel like that the reason why they're not dead is especially in the shot composition, right? They don't show, like, you know, splat, I guess. Like, they don't show them both splat on the ground. And so it's unknown what happened to them. But, like, unknown is getting into very, like, they're alive. Like, you know what I mean? No body, no death in a way, right? But, yeah, so Anthony's, like, complimenting the fact that, like, you know, Mary Rose used all the soot, though. Like, all the soot that he had laid out for those monsters, and so you are the one that provided all the soot for the cushion, right? Because I guess, like, what the implication was like, okay, I'm gonna put a bunch of soot under the bridge, and then we're gonna use that soot to make the cushion. But I guess Mary Rose kind of changed her mind and was like, no, I'm gonna use that soot to make the Phantom, right? And, like, you know what I mean? Maybe she didn't actually care about whether or not the cushion was there or not, and so Kate had to do it herself. And so, yeah, I do like this from Anthony, you know, but, like, this is a weird shot. This is a very suspicious shot, you know? And so I think that that's a little strange. Like, the way that they, I don't know, the way that the camera sits on him in some shots makes him seem, like, very suspicious, right? And so Kate seems to distrust him because he didn't put any effort into saving Mary Rose. So see, this is where my theory comes in. Because he says, I am human, which, sure, okay, yeah, like, yes, there are limits to what those who are not shadows can do, right? But, like, the way he says it makes me not believe it. You know what I mean? I am human. He didn't say, I am a human, I am only human. He just said, I am human, which is kind of weird. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those, like, nitpick things, but if I were to say that, if somebody was like, Cal, why didn't you try to do something, right? I probably would have said, you know, I'm only human, or, like, I'm just a human, right? But he just says, I am human. You know what I mean? And so I know that that's not a big deal, but here's my theory. This is what I've been thinking about for the past 3 days, or 2 days. What day is it? Anyway, this is what I've been thinking about, okay? So you guys have to bear witness. I think that if the will of a human is stronger than the will of a shadow, humans can actually absorb the shadow and have their powers. Okay? I know that that sounds a little crazy, but here's basically what I mean. Let's use an example, okay? You have Ricky and you got Patrick, okay? Ricky, though he's not, like, you know, fully unbrainwashed yet, is he? He's not. And so, like, you know, he has very strong will, right? Like, he's very, like, manipulative, kind of cunning, sort of, like, ambitious, right? Like, Ricky has a lot of strong will, whereas Patrick, on the other hand, is a little bit like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have any soot powers, he doesn't really know what he's doing, and so Patrick is in less control in most situations compared to Ricky. So what I think is that if Ricky and Patrick, if the brainwashing was broken and they were forced to be fused together, that it is possible that Ricky could overcome Patrick and actually absorb Patrick instead of the shadow absorbing the doll. And I think that that may be the big twist to everything, is that usually shadows are very weak, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so in the past, shadows were sort of absorbed in a sense by humans. But in order to stop that from happening or to like fight back or whatever, they have to brainwash the humans so they can control them instead. You know what I mean? So it's a little twisty twist. Like in the past or like in the wild, okay, humans would come across shadows, form bonds with them, and then those shadows would be absorbed into the humans, and the humans could have the shadows' powers, right? And so the only reason why it's working in the reverse right now is because they have brainwashed the humans to relinquish control. But if a human still has control, is it possible that they could, like, you know what I mean? That they could reject the shadow, or like, I guess, like, want fusion, but in the opposite way. So what if Christopher didn't kill himself? What if Christopher and Anthony actually did go into the fusion box, but only Anthony came out? You know what I mean? And maybe Christopher sacrificed his life, you know, for Anthony, like how the dolls are supposed to give up their lives for their shadow masters. What if Christopher gave up his life to Anthony, and it's sort of like, I don't know, like an equivalent exchange situation, but it can actually go both ways. A shadow can take over a human body, or if, like, with consent, a human can take over a shadow's body or a shadow's powers. And so I feel like that the reason why they're putting this emphasis on Anthony being like, oh, I am human, I don't know, it feels a little sus, right? And so I wonder if it's possible that Anthony is actually a human with shadow powers. And we haven't heard of anything like that so far, right? Obviously. But I don't know, man. I think that, like, there could be something going on. I'm just saying. There's not necessarily anything in the show that indicates that this is something that exists yet. But there could be build-up to that, and that build-up could start with Anthony. Because that's something you guys say to me sometimes, which is totally fair. Like, Cal, there's absolutely no evidence for this. Like, what made you think this? But, you know, just because there's no evidence right now doesn't mean that it's possible. Like, it's impossible, I should say. It doesn't mean that it's impossible for that to be some kind of, like, reveal in the future, you know? And so I feel like that, like, especially, you know, we thought that Kate was something that, like, wasn't an actual shadow and was something else. Like, maybe Kate is the same as him, because that's another theory I had, that Kate and Christopher and Anthony were somehow the same. And so maybe, like, that could be the thing with Kate, too. Maybe she's, like, a human with soot powers, I guess, or, like, a human that accepted the soot or something like that. And Anthony is also a human that accepted the soot, but he chooses to present himself as human most of the time. Maybe Kate could choose to present herself as human as well, and, like, we just don't know. So I guess back to the theory that I had in episode 2, which we called the Kitsune theory, right? That Kate wasn't actually a shadow, but she was this other thing mimicking a shadow or something. I feel like that maybe Kate is a human with shadow powers, and maybe that's why, I don't know, maybe that's why she knows a bunch of stuff, I guess. Right? That's how she knows that the dolls are human. That's how she knows, like, certain things, but not other things, right? Maybe it's because, like, she is human herself with shadow powers. And maybe that's why she, like, tries to reinforce to Emilico, but you're human. You know, you can think like this. Because, like, how would she know how humans think, you know, unless she was a human or had, like, previous experiences, like, heavily with other humans, right? So, you know, just throwing that out there, right? And so I think that this is interesting too, because this is also a sketchy shot. Like, this man is just full of, like, sketchy shots, right? And so I think that that's something to consider, is that, like, Anthony's not, like, telling us the full truth. See, here's something weird too. So Kate is asking, after Christopher killed himself, and he's doing this little, like he's doing this little, like, hand thing on the chair, and he has this little smile, and so I'm like, sir, this is sus as fuck. So I don't think that Christopher actually killed himself. I I think that Anthony absorbed Christopher. I think that that is a possibility. And like the shadows in Shadow's house do not want humans to absorb shadows. They're like, no, we can't have humans with shadow powers anymore. We want to like absorb the humans instead. That'll show them. Like it's some sort of like, I don't know, like twist or something. Like humans always pillaged and took over fairy magic. And now maybe Lord Grandfather decided enough is enough. And as revenge, we're going to like take a bunch of humans and force them, you know, to be our fairy bodies, basically. So maybe in the past, it was actually the reverse, right? The cycle of hatred, very Attack on Titan situation right now, you know? But yeah, anyway, and so Anthony is basically like, hey, like, we could command the children's wing, like, let's do this, and then he's like, you need me, and he basically fucks off and disappears. See, and that's the other reason why, like, you know, he could just be, like, disappearing in the vents, I guess, right? There is a window here, but I'm just saying, like, he disappeared, but there's no door, there's no exit. I mean, the window could be an exit, if that's a window, because I think this is the bathroom, right? But, like, think about it, like, yeah, Anthony seems to be going through the vents or something, you know, like a little Among Us, okay? Little Among Us joke for you guys, right? Anthony seems to be going in the vents, or maybe he went out the window or something like that, but what if he actually did have soot powers and he could, like, negate his mass and turn into like little soot, you know what I mean? Like what if he can make himself like soot and like go up the ventilation or something like that? We don't really have a character that can do that, obviously, but I'm just sort of thinking of like cool ideas. Is that like he can basically not go through walls, but more like, have you guys ever seen, for example, in Ruby, right? Ruby can burst into rose petals, and like through that she kind of becomes like she has no mass, and so like for example if she as a human can't fit up an air vent, she could turn into rose petals and go up the air vent because she's suddenly like a bunch of just like pieces of rose petals, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, I don't know, man, I'm just thinking like what if like they could do something like that, like how maybe that's how Anthony is getting around and staying hidden. He's just like breaking himself down and then putting himself back together. I don't know, but yeah, and so I'm sure that they're alive, right? And so that's what I think too. I also think that they're alive, but we're probably not gonna find out for like another 2 seasons or something. Let's talk about Emilico's dream as well, because there's not really a lot to say here other than the fact that like it seems like the cuff on her dress is sort of similar to the apron she wears, so it could be like an indication that she is imagining herself, but I think that it's probably more of a memory. And so I'm getting like farm Emilico still, and so here's like the backstory I've constructed for Emilico so far. I think that maybe she was, you know, a daughter of like a poor farmer or something, and that poor farmer needed money. So he sent Emilico to go be in like a circus or a dance troupe or like a theater troupe or something, you know? And then that theater troupe, very Pinocchio by the way, right? Like the Stromboli, is that Stromboli? Strombolini? The guy in Pinocchio, right? Like, you know, I think it's the Great Stromboli or something, right? Like the guy in Pinocchio that has a little thing where like all the puppet shows, and then he's like, guys, look at this puppet, like can dance by itself, like he tried to make Pinocchio like a star or something. What if that's kind of what happened to Emilico? They're taking some like Pinocchio inspiration, right? And that basically, that she was a farm girl, and then her father or her mother or somebody like not sold her, but kind of sold her, right, like to the theater or to the circus or wherever, and like then that like theater owner also sent her to Shadow's house, because I do think that she must have been in something acrobatic, and that begs the question because Barbie has like weird acrobatic skills as well in her flashback. Were they both in the circus? That was something we talked about last week. So yeah, I think that this is interesting too, right, is that like, first of all, Sarah's like really gunning for team leader here, but also like Emilico and her casual depression, I guess, right? Like she basically goes through, we clean all day, okay, and then I have to act as Kate's face, and then I have to clean some more, and then I go to bed, right? And she basically talks about how the cycle makes it so they can't think of anything, and like she's kind of burnt out and also depressed, and like she's the only one with the knowledge, and nobody thinks about the people that are gone, and so she's like struggling with all of this burden, right? And so it's very sad, obviously, but I think that like more than sad, it's also just so fucked up, right? Because how do I explain this? It's just so fucked how Emilico was so happy and like bright-eyed at the very beginning, and then slowly we're just seeing her like descend into, I guess, a little depression, right? Like Kate is like, I'm gonna help you because I want to make sure that you keep smiling, right? And I think that's kind of, you know, a good message. It's like that, you know, no matter how hard things get, Emilico still has her friends, right? And that's worth smiling for and worth fighting for, and all the friends are gonna help each other in this terrible situation, right? But yeah, it's just so fucked up how like this season you see that she's actually struggling with like a lot of sadness and like burnout and like depression, right? And this is fucked up too, because this is like Matrix, you know, sort of thing, right? Like if you drink the coffee, you don't have to think, you can just be happy. And so she entertains the idea of, well, should I just drink the coffee again to make this pain go away? And like, isn't that a metaphor, guys? Like that's so fucked up, because I feel like that's probably how, you know, a lot of us feel. Like we've talked about, you know, Shadow's house as kind of like a capitalism metaphor, you know? And so I feel like that there's a very interesting thing to be said there about that. It's like, you know, numbing ourselves from, I guess, like, I don't know, numbing ourselves from the horror of what, like, capitalism has done to us, and, like, we're not able to fight back, or even, like, I'm not gonna get, like, too, like, anti-work, I guess, in my Shadow's House video, but, like, some people say that certain things are basically, like, released intentionally in order to make, like, the working population kind of, like, forget about, like, how hard, you know, their life is, or, like, to numb them to it. I don't know. It's hard to explain, right? But, like, yeah, and so that's like a whole thing as well. Like you could say, I mean, you could say that about anything. You could say that about, you know, like alcohol, like for example, and certain things like that. Like there are just like certain things throughout history, even not necessarily modern day, but also in history. Like, oh, you know, they being like whatever, like the ruling class in whatever like country, like started to release this. So like, you know, people would like relax more or become in a state of like relaxation, and then they wouldn't be able to fight back and stuff like that. And so anyway, I'm not gonna get into that too much, but yeah, kind of a scary metaphor even for us. Like think about, I guess, how many things that we do. I'm not talking about like drugs, by the way. Like I'm not one of those crazy people that is like ADHD is made up. Like they're just trying to put you on drugs because I have ADHD, so I know it's not fucking made up, and I'm sure you guys can tell I have ADHD too. But I'm talking about like, you know, like, oh, like scrolling through TikTok to numb the pain. Like that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. So it's kind of scary that like Shadow's house is hitting on that, because I think about that sometimes. I'm like, how many things do we just sort of consume to like make the pain go away, but none of us are willing to fight back for like better conditions or like whatever the case, right? And so anyway, with that cheery thought out of the way, right, at least, like, Kate is helping, right, even though she's using a rag for the floor that's, you know, that's on the table, I guess, right, but I think that this is nice, right, that Kate is actually trying to help, and that, like, brightens Emilico's spirit. So I just thought that that was cute, very, like, return to form, if that makes sense, and, like, seeing how far their relationship has come, I think is really nice, especially, like, compare this to the very first episode. Like, I think you'll find it very interesting if you go back and watch episode 1 and then watch this episode as well. Like, I think that it's very, very interesting. That's what I did before I saw the reaction and everything. And so they're just talking about the dream here, right? Was it a dream or was it a memory, right? I do think I would have to see Emilico in her work clothes again. But yeah, I think that the cuff is slightly different, so I'm leaning more toward memory. And I really like this conversation between them too. A cycle of life where you aren't treated as human was devised, right? To make you actually feel like a doll. So Kate's totally right, and that's what I'm like, is this our society too? I mean, at least we can go in the sun. But like, you know what I mean? Like a workload that allows no time for thinking, like, yeah, that's a little too much. But anyway. And so I think that this is interesting, right? Then you will end up accepting fusion with a shadow. And see, I'm like, I wonder if it could go the other way, but I don't know. And so I really like that Emilico is confiding with Kate about, like, you know, that she actually thought this. The coffee is meant to numb you to the harshness of life. Without it, you must be suffering greatly, right? She's like awake now. You know what I mean? She's been, what is it, red-pilled? I never saw The Matrix, I'm sorry. But you know what I mean? Like, she's actually seeing the reality for what it is now. But let's talk about this, okay? So Edward's like, yeah, don't worry, we just need to, like, you know, fix up the passageway, give it a good repair. You know, they basically, like, covered it up. It's just worn down a little bit, nothing to see here. And so now there are no invitations. Okay, so I lost my train of thought, but what I was trying to say was now that the passageway of glory is basically like not being used, like it's in repair, this may actually be a good thing because now none of the children in the children's wing are at risk for being fused. They're still at risk for like breaking and like disposal and everything like that, obviously, but at least in terms of fusion, it doesn't seem like that any of the children are at risk because now they cannot go through the adult passageway. And so if there was any a time, right, for Kate to start like a rebellion and start to plan something, it would probably be now because at least they can save all 50 children that are in the children's wing at the moment. Or at least Kate says there's 50 at the end of the episode, right? So now that they can't actually go through the passageway, this may be a good time to start planning to break out all 50 or whatever exactly Kate's going to do, because that would mean that, I guess disposal notwithstanding, they will not lose anyone, right? And so, yeah, I think that, like, the Sarah and Kate conversation is interesting, right? Because Sarah's like, well, I've been here for a long time, so I'm definitely gonna be the leader, but they have it be Kate. And so let's talk about Isabel quickly. So this is what confused me, but I think now I understand. Isabel and Maribel are the shadows. Belle is the doll. Belle is now the one doll for Isabel and Maribel. But the reason why Maribel isn't here is because the other Belle is being disposed of. And so what's kind of crazy is that they've let, I guess, Maribel not be disposed of as well, if that makes sense. Like, they've let it be so that Maribel is not being disposed. And that's kind of interesting because that's a break of form. But I guess the idea is they'll just share one doll now, which I wonder if it's because Maribel has some sort of power where it's like, look, we don't want to lose you, right? Because you have such strong powers. So just this once, we'll find a workaround. We'll make an exception, I guess you could say, right? And so that's interesting. And so, yeah, so as they have all received punishment, they are no longer worthy of being leaders. But what's interesting is they're not revealing that the culprit was actually Rosemary to the kids. And so even though Maribel and Isabel had no choice, right, they're not actually clearing like their name or anything, right? They've stopped their punishment, but they're actually not, saying, actually, it wasn't their fault, they didn't do it. And I think the reason is because Mary Rose became an adult, and so that would kind of like make them look bad, you know what I mean? Like Mary Rose technically got an invitation. I think that people probably think that she just became an adult, not that she, actually did the bads, I guess. So yeah, I'm not actually sure about that, right? And so I'm not actually sure. But it seems like they're just going with the narrative that it was still the Bells, and they're not telling that the real culprit was actually like Mary Rose and Rosemary, right? And so it seems like Belle, see, I don't know what disposed of means. Does that mean Belle is dead, or does that mean that she's just one of the mourning veiled dolls? And so that's what I'm a little confused about. I don't know if Belle is dead. Maybe there's some way to find her. Maybe she's a veiled doll like Rum is, but usually broken means dead, right? Because it's only when the shadow dies that the dolls become veiled dolls. Broken is like the doll is dead. Anyway, so Elizabeth, who is new, is going to be Team 9's leader, and we know that this is actually kind of interesting, right? Because this girl was like, yeah, I hope that these two bitches don't come back because they've made my life miserable, right? So instead of making her the leader of her team, they've actually made Elizabeth the leader of her team. But that may be better for her. Who's this girl again? Margaret, right? And so I think that like Margaret isn't assertive enough to be a team leader, so I think Isabel being the team leader makes sense, and I think Margaret will much prefer that considering how she talked about Isabel. And so yeah, Kate becoming the leader is like recognition of Kate's efforts and everything. This is Barbara's acknowledgement of you, Kate. The letter of consent Barbara drew up on your advice proved to be useful. Show us what more you can do in the future as a team leader. It is likely that we will make use of your wisdom again as an advisor. And I think that's really good, right? That builds a nice relationship between Kate and Barbara, right? And that maybe Barbara, like she says, I have high hopes for you, which is kind of like what Christopher said to her and what Thomas said to her. But I also think that she may may see Kate as like a pseudo Christopher replacement, and I think that may make things really interesting. Also, Sarah is just like seething right here, so yeah, that was something that I wanted to notice. She's so mad, right? And so yeah, she has Barbara's trust, which is very interesting, and so they can't investigate the Star Bears though, because the coffee is accumulated too long. And so this may go against my theory that she may tell Barbara the truth, but I also think that maybe, I don't know, maybe eventually they could break Barbara of the brainwashing, because we have this post-credit scene where they're both on the bridge toward each other, which sort of implies to me that there will be like tension between Barbara and Kate, like going into next season as well, right? Not that she'll be the antagonist, but that'll be like a major situation, if that makes sense. And so they're going to work on recruiting their own team members first. And I think that may be complicated, especially for Isabel and Maribel, like, you know what I mean, to convince them to rebel. With Lou, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. I think Sarah's gonna be the hardest one to convince. I also loved this, like, does that mean I'm the team leader too? Because that's the first thing I thought, like, oh, you don't realize it yet? I'm not gonna go through all of this, but I really liked how they showcase, like, Emilico trying to be kind to Belle. You know, Belle, like, hits her with, like, a thimble thing, and, like, basically, Emilico tries to, like, coax her out of her room, like, it's just a regular cleaning, it's all right, but it doesn't work, right? And so it's been like that for a couple days now, but I just love how they show her, like, we'll just do the work of two people, you know, for now. Like, Belle is traumatized, she's been through a lot, like, give her a minute. Just the kindness that Emilico exudes, really. Yeah, Sarah basically thinks that Belle is already broken, but I love this, like, she made her a little dull, like, she's just trying to show her, you know, kindness, and I think that's why Emilico deserves to be the team leader, right? Everyone in Team 10 wrote something for you, which I think was very sweet. For the morning cleaning, to start with, just making an appearance will be enough, right? So I'm sure that next time she will actually appear. You know what I mean? Like, after, like, in the first episode of season 3, I'm assuming that she will come out of her room. And so I really like the tension between Sarah and Emilico, because I'm assuming that, like, Sarah and Mia are also going to be, or I guess Mia and Emilico, I'm assuming that, like, Mia is going to be kind of antagonistic, and she's gonna kind of be, again, like, one of the major antagonists again, or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? Like, conflict between her again, where she kind of took a back seat for a while. But I really like this scene with Barbara and all of the team leaders and the Star Bearers again. And so I like this, like, Liz's team is doing well. The problem is Team 10, right? According to reports, you are continuing your assignments with one member missing. And I like how Ollie's like, hey, but everything's fine, you know, they're getting their cleaning done, like, what's the big deal, right? And I'm like, thanks, Ollie, I appreciate it. But I love, like, the expression on Barbie's face. She's like, nah, like, why are you fucking, like, contradicting me in public, Ollie? Like, that's literally the look she has on her face right now. It's like, don't contradict me in public, Ollie, right? But yeah, and so I think that this is interesting, right? Because she says, Sunshine, you have not gained my approval. Barbara's the one who decides stuff, which I think is very interesting. And I think it's interesting, too, that she's not directly looking at her. I guess she's looking up at her with her head down, you know? But I don't think that she expected Emilico to fight back, which I think is the most compelling part of this episode, right? Like, Emilico does not look away. She doesn't look down. Like, Barbara's looking down and up at her in sort of like an angry way, I think. But Emilico is staying, like, strong. She's just like, you know what I mean? Arms at her sides. She's very, like, confident, right? And even as she gets up, she's confident. Also, Ollie's like, no, like, that's not nice, but nobody else has a reaction anyway. So yeah, that's also why I think I have this theory that Ollie and Oliver have also stopped drinking the coffee, and, like, since he has a reaction to that, maybe that's, like, further evidence, right? And so I think that it's interesting now to see, like, Emilico also come into contention with Barbie a little bit, right? I love, like, the little speech that she gives, because everyone is kind of, I think everyone's kind of surprised to see Emilico talking back to her. And I think that, like, you know, I think that these girls, they're all new, right? I think some of them are. And so, like, you know, they're probably surprised too. And so I just love, like, the compassion that she has. In spite of that, Belle's room is clean, so she is cleaning, right? She's cleaning her room, she's cleaning both of the twins' room, right? And so I think that that's very interesting, you know? Like, I think that's interesting that they're both sharing one doll, but then also I love how, like, Emilico kind of makes a plea of compassion in front of everyone, and I feel like Barbara probably doesn't like that, you know what I mean? I feel like that she probably doesn't like that plea of compassion, but at the same time, I wonder if she's thinking to herself, like, why no one else stands up like that for anyone, right? Like, she doesn't even look surprised until, like, she says this, because I think she sees the expression on Emilico's face. So I wonder, like, if Barbara deep down wonders why nobody has gone that far to bat for, like, other people or for her or something. Like, maybe she's a bit jealous of the fact that despite everything, despite losing 2 people, as Barbara has lost 2 people, she can retain optimism and a fighting spirit and stuff. Okay, so see, this flower, I don't know if Kate picked it because it reminded her of Mary Rose, or reminded her, or if she picked it because, you know what I mean? Or if it was, like, just left on her desk. But I'm inclined to think that, like, Mary Rose snuck in the window and gave her the rose, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, she could have picked it to remember Mary Rose, just like how she made the little bow to remember rum, right? But I'm sort of inclined to think that, like, maybe Mary Rose actually left this. And you also see there is a little doll here, like a little soot man. And so I thought this was supposed to be Kate's soot man, but it doesn't have Kate's hair. So I wonder if it's like Rum, Christopher, and then Mary Rose. Like, I wonder if this is like a little shrine for all of them. But I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, I like the headcanon that Mary Rose snuck in and left that flower there, right? And I kind of like how they ended stuff off. Like, you have Margaret, like, looking at Patrick and Ricky. You know, you have, I don't know who's that girl is, that, like, you know what I mean, who this one is? I think it's her shadow, probably. But you see, like, you know, the medical wing, you see Lou and Louise, they're still working out with Ben and Benjamin. And so, yeah, they talk about, like, the fact that there's 50 kids in the children's wing at the moment. You know, the truth is they're all victims of the house. And I love seeing, like, you know, the research team again. I thought this was a nice way to end everything off. They'd become allies who would stand against Shadow's house. And see, she's saying that as Barbara's walking. And so I feel like that Barbara would stand against Shadow's house if she knew that Christopher killed himself and everything. I feel like that's what they need to tell her to get her on their side. And so that's basically it, guys. That's, I think, everything that I have to discuss so far. I don't really have anything else. We already talked about the theory about Christopher. We talked about how Kate may interact with Barbara in the future. So I think that's basically it. I hope that you guys enjoyed all of our discussions. I think that, like, there's so much potential for this show to, like, you know, really be, like, you know, stand the test of time, basically. And I really hope that we get another season. I hope that that's confirmed soon. I hope that more people get into the show, because I think it's so deserving. And that's basically it from me, guys. Remember, if you have enjoyed any of the discussions or the reactions in the past 12 episodes, to check out the Patreon, or if you want to donate, like, a one-time donation, I also have, like, Ko-fi and, like, a paypal.me thing in the description. And so, yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you next season, and I will see you at least in the next thing of whatever I do. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!